W.B. Smith speaking. I have been asked a number of times as to what happened to Project Magnet. So I prepared the following statement, which I would like to read. Project Magnet was authorized in December 1950 following a request made to the Canadian Department of Transport by myself for permission to make use of the department's laboratory and field facilities in a study of unidentified flying objects and physical principles which might appear to be involved. The program consisted of two parts. The first part was the collecting of as much high-quality data as possible, analyzing it, and, where possible, drawing conclusions from it. The second part consisted of a systematic questioning of all our basic concepts in the hopes of turning up a discrepancy which might prove to be the key to a new technology. Unfortunately, the program was plagued by well-meaning but misguided journalists who were looking for spectacular copy or copy which could be turned to political account, to such an extent that both those who were working on the project and the Department of Transport found themselves in an embarrassed position. Consequently, when the Project Magnet report was made and permission sought to extend the scope of the investigation through federal financial support, the decision was finally made in 1954 that this would not be advisable in the face of the publicity from which the whole project had suffered. Project Magnet was officially dropped by the Department of Transport in October 1954. Although the department indicated its willingness to permit the continued use of laboratory facilities, provided this could be done at no cost to the public treasury. The project has been continuing under these conditions, and to this extent may be said to have gone underground. The Government of Canada are not participants in the project and not in any way responsible for its conclusions. The conclusions reached by Project Magnet and contained in the official report were based on a rigid statistical analysis of sighting reports and were as follows. There is a 91% probability that at least some of the sightings are of real objects of unknown origin. There is about 60% probability that these objects are alien vehicles. That is, alien meaning not of earthly fabrication. The conclusions based on studies of the basic physical concepts were as follows. Many of our fundamental concepts are inherently ambiguous, and quite a different philosophy can be built up on the alternatives. Several of these alternatives lead to much simpler arithmetic and presentations which do not have to resort to patchwork corrections to make them all embracing. Furthermore, some of our ideas with respect to fields and their behavior are wrong. Recent Project Magnet activities have dealt with following up any and all leads. Many of these leads were dead ends, but a few were quite significant and well worth the overall effort. At the present time, a definite pattern is emerging, and the groundwork is being laid for a new technology which may literally lead us to the stars. And I have signed this report and have offered it to a number of publications who wish to clarify the status of Project Magnet. One of the results of the publicity which Project Magnet received was that I received a large number of communications from people all over the world. Of course, quite a number of these communications were definitely of the crank or crackpot class, but I did take the time and trouble to follow up every one which looked the least bit promising. And as a result, I did establish a number of connections which I found most profitable. Quite a number of people, a surprising number in fact, claim to have made contact with the space people in one way or another. In following up the leads, I tried not to let these people know of the existence of any other group which had made contact, but I tried to act as a clearinghouse for the information which was funneled in to me. By asking judicious questions of each of the various groups, I was able to obtain information which I could cross-check against similar information obtained through other sources. As a matter of fact, there are approximately a half dozen groups which have made contact with the space people which I feel are authentic. I've asked these people to answer certain questions concerning the life, philosophy, and science of the races which inhabit space and which live on the other planets and travel from one planet to another. I found that practically all, without exception, of the answers have been consistent. These people tell exactly the same story in almost the same words. In some instances, even the words are identical, even though the manner in which they reach me is totally different in the various cases. The early history of the human race has been given to me on 3 separate occasions through 3 separate contacts, and in each case has been, to all intents and purposes, as nearly identical as our own history books ever record any historical fact. I feel myself that these histories are authentic. Naturally, I've asked quite a number of questions concerning the basic science, the mathematics, and the physics and chemistry which these people use. And I've come to the conclusion that it is quite different from what we call our science. Their ideas of matter, atoms, and so on is quite a bit different than ours, and I must say, when understood, it is ever so much simpler than ours. We have built a mathematical monstrosity out of the universe, and we are insisting that all of our experimental data be squeezed and coerced to fit this mathematical monstrosity. The basic science that I have been able to obtain from the space people is beautifully simple. As a matter of fact, it is so simple that I'm really surprised that we have passed it by and never discovered it on our own. My contacts with the space people have only extended over the last 2 years. And naturally, in 2 years, and with very sporadic contacts, not very much ground could be covered. Consequently, so far as the space people's science is concerned, I feel that I am very definitely in the kindergarten. However, I do feel that I have sufficient fundamentals so that, given the time and the opportunity to do so, I could proceed at least as far in their science as I have proceeded in our own science in taking